Hi, I'm Jimi Hendrick, and this episode is called Change Patterns for Self-Made Folks on Empower Your Pattern 2.0. I'm Jimi Hendrick. I am a success, confidence, and thrive coach, member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and founder of James Hendrick Empowerment. I believe there are patterns that help us receive more, help us live a better and extraordinary life. I also believe that there are spiritual and temporal tips that help us overcome the adversities in everyday life to step into the life we've always wanted. Hello, everybody. It's good to be on board. I want to apologize about my last podcast. I believe it was a few days ago. I had just arrived in Salt Lake at the time, and I was jet lagged, and I was also sadly not feeling well. And so that became kind of known as, an issue. I don't feel like I gave that last episode, Toastmasters for Entrepreneurs, a fair shake, so I will bring it back around at some point, either in the series or later on. But in the meantime, I want to talk about something that really was an impact on me when I walked into they call it the Okra Mountain Temple, I believe is what it was called. I don't, but it was with a friend of mine in South Jordan, Utah, Bishop Dave, and I went in and started getting ready for the endowment ceremony, and I went through the endowment ceremony, and it just seemed like, even though I was not feeling well, even though I was not up to par, it's like something spiritually, mentally, and molecularly changed in me. And I'm not just talking about the temple, I'm talking the whole trip to Utah gave me a unique perspective. Anyway, earlier that morning, before I'd gone to the temple that afternoon, my mother and I had gotten into a rather spirited discussion about some issues in my past with Charlie Nation. And that is a part and a door on my life that I much rather leave closed. But I will say this. When the endowment session was over, and I stepped into what is known as the celestial room in the temple in Utah, it's almost like I felt the hand of Heavenly Father talking to me, saying, you don't have to talk about your Pastor Charlie Nation anymore. You don't have to mention it anymore. He said, all that stuff, all that adversity where you wandered astray and you knocked yourself down, doesn't matter anymore. You are a new creature. You are mine. And you talk about just an overwhelm of the Spirit. And when I left that room, I knew somehow something fundamentally changed. I didn't feel like I could really talk about it because it was so sacred, except to say one thing. While I was in the temple, it was like I was being told by the Lord, your pattern Your pattern has changed. So, I sit there and I talk to you about some of the tools for entrepreneurship. I've talked to you about crowdfunding, talked to you about leadership, so many wonderful things and tools that we have to our arsenal. And I could put this in video format, which it will be on my James A. Hendricks School of Leadership website from the podcast. But let me say this, guys. We all have patterns that change. See, once COVID hit, I knew that the pattern in my life had changed. And I mourned. And sometimes in entrepreneurship as well as in life, patterns change. People go through changes. People evolve. Okay, so here's the thing. Tonight I sat there and I caught myself, sliding right back into the old pattern, listening to an old song that was popular with my friend Jim Bob that he liked back in the 60s. And for some reason, I wanted to cry because of all the changes I've been through in my life. And Heavenly Father said, you don't have to cry. Just be careful what you put in your spirit, because your pattern has forever changed. See, that's the thing. God can change the pattern in you. Our distracted, defiant culture, it loves to just wag the past out in front of people. And I'm going to tell you one of the tools it loves to use, and that's depression. Depression, where it tells you you're not good enough. There's something fundamentally wrong in you, in your being. That's not the correct success pattern. That's the distractive, defiant culture telling you that there's something fundamentally wrong with you. Because why? Because you won't be a cookie cutter for the culture. No. You're members of pattern realm. You don't want to be a cookie cutter for the current culture. You want to create a different culture. Now, am I right? Because so many people now, they're hung up on, what's going on with the, celebrities and what's going on in Hollywood. But we're not taking notice of what's going on in our own lives. I sat there. You hear me sit there and talk about the success patterns for entrepreneurs. And yeah, the world makes it look so glitzy. And the world has ideas for its own of what makes wealth and what makes success. But here at Pattern Realm, a lot of people are telling entrepreneurs, you need to work every single day, 7 days a week. You listen to Pattern Realm, I'll tell you straight up, no. The seventh day is for the Lord. Sundays, I will tell anybody till the cow comes home. Sundays, I will not work in the personal development realm unless it has something to do with me standing there speaking with the scriptures. Other than that, non-negotiable. But so many people think, well, entrepreneurship, it's a full-time thing, 7 days a week. Success is good. But success in the eyes of our distractive, defiant culture, let me tell you something, that's not real success. I say at the beginning of every episode, every single episode, that I believe that there are patterns to help us receive more and to live a better and extraordinary life. But if you just talk about temporal success in expense to your spiritual values, then you're sunk. And the way of the world is like, oh, just hit your principles. You can be successful, more wealthy, and beyond your dreams. You just ditch your principles. Don't do that. Listen to me. Don't do that. Don't play that game. You don't have to play that game. Listen to me. You don't have to play that game. Let me ask you guys something. Have you recently had an encounter with the Lord to where He just gives you a different direction from where everybody else wants you? And you just know from that encounter that you'll never be the same. I can't look into people's eyes because I'm legally blind, but I can look into people's souls. And I can tell if people are ready for that success. It's nice to have money and all the trappings and stuff. It's nice to have businesses and everything. But if you put the temporal in expense of the spiritual, you are not going to have the success that you're meant to have. You take God and His patterns set forth to you by the scriptures out of your life, out of your work and success and in business. You're sunk. You're sunk. And that's why I love my local Toastmasters club. There for a time we had stopped prayer. And then I and one of my mentors said, let's bring it back. Because it is my firm belief that you can't take God out of your own personal development. So many people believe, well, success is in the hands of the universe. Why not look to the very one who made the universe? I mean, seriously, guys. Change patterns for the self-made folk. You know, when you've reached an epitome, you've reached the brick wall spiritually and maybe even temporally, that you don't know which end is up. And then all of a sudden, God doesn't move, thanks to the help of maybe a friend. And that's what this trip to Utah was. Bishop Dave really helped me with this one. Because I'll tell you something. It was a complete and total blessing. Because all of a sudden, it's like blammo. Success. Happiness. And I'm not saying that it's instantaneous and pie in the sky. We still got to work for it. But the fact of the matter is this: patterns change. And God changes those patterns with your help and the help of those around you. You know, I watch so many YouTube channels talk about. There's one I like that sometimes, but sometimes I feel like it's bordering on, just the temporal success in expense of, the spiritual laws of success. And yes, there are spiritual laws. There are spiritual laws. You can't fart around with those spiritual laws. Listen to me. When I walked out of I walked into that temple in South Jordan, Utah. And it was sunny, and it was hot, and it was muggy, and I was tired. I wasn't sure my heart was in it. And then I don't know what it is. In that temple, as I sat down to pray, boom, the answer came. I walked out of that temple. It had been raining, a decent rain. And it was just a beautiful backdrop. Everything, the whole trip to Utah, Salt Lake. Those of you in the LDS church, if you visited the conference center at Temple Square, it firms your testimony. Look, it doesn't matter what faith you belong to. Whether you're a Baptist or Catholic or Jew or whatever. Strengthen your faith and your testimony first. And then work on strengthening the spirit, the temporal. Because you can't get temporal straight unless you get spiritual straight. And the way the pull of the world is, it's easy to just want to meander from there. But I emerged from the trip to Utah a changed man. Now, am I saying that the transformation back home has been easy? No. But I am realizing that some patterns are going to have to change. Like, instead of watching enactments and quote-unquote fictional biographies for my favorite video game, I feel like instead I'm being called to watch things about success, about history, about spiritual principles. Because it can be easy to be off track. But the fact of the matter is, guys, you don't have to. These are change patterns for the self-made folk. And you can change them with God's help. Sometimes He takes a few nudges here and there. Now, I know some people might pull for me, say, to go ahead and move to Utah. Don't get me wrong, Utah's a beautiful place. But my place, I feel like, is here in Texas. Needless to say, though, my pattern has changed because of what I witnessed spiritually in Utah. And you know, wherever your religious faith Mecca is, some people go to Jerusalem and get their testimony strengthened, which I believe it will, whatever your faith in God is. But the fact of the matter is, we have changed patterns. We have changed patterns. And you might say, well, Jimmy, what in the world? This is supposed to be about entrepreneurship. And you're sitting there emphasizing everything about the spiritual. Where's the relevant to hear a message about entrepreneurship? Yes, but entrepreneurship has a softer side. It has a spiritual side, okay? Not everything is about kicking butt to make money and compromising principles and values to be a success. Too many people think, oh, that's okay to do that. It's okay. No big deal, no big deal. It is a big deal. People say, well, Jimmy, you talk so much about your faith. What's up with you? My faith is a part of everything I do. Geniuses who don't already know me. And this is probably the longest podcast I have done in a while because I've been under the weather and had certain issues. And so I figured I'd sit down and do this justice because this change pattern in my life has had quite an impact on me. And I will not go back on what I know and what I love and what I believe. Okay? You have so many rich blessings. You really do. Listen to me. God loves you and I love you. Pattern Realm as the chief of Pattern Realm, I want you to know things can be tough, but we can zip right back on up. COVID changed the paradigm in our life. But in some cases, I feel like it's changed us for the good. We're more spiritually resourceful and gain truth. So, there we go. Guys, listen to me. You know when you need to change your pattern. But sometimes, indeed, God shows you, hey, you're off track. You're serious off track, and you need to get back. Huh? I don't think I've ever had a podcast where I've spoken my heart about this. I left for Utah having some doubts for my faith and my testimony because of my individual circumstances. But then I found out, in some ways you can craft your faith for your individual circumstances because in some ways it is individually yours. So many rich patterns. Now, I'm going to be on the lookout for some other topics, and I'll be coming to you guys shortly, okay? You guys take care. Empowering entrepreneurs. I never thought that it would take this little fork in the road, but I'm glad it has. With that, I hope you enjoy listening to Empower Your Pattern 2.0. If you like what you hear, please subscribe and become a part of Pattern Realm. This is Jimi Hendrix saying until next time, don't just sit there and take it. You build your dreams so you can take it. Do what others don't so you can be what others won't. And do what others don't so you can step up, step out, and step in to have what others can't. Choose, act, and pursue happiness. God bless each and every one of you. You guys have a blessed day.